Hey guys, it's Tyrone from the Young Cynics, and after the strenuous nightmare of working on my Star Wars fanfiction, I thought I'd switch over to a franchise equally as non-controversial right now, Star Trek. So today I thought I would review and rank every theatrically released Star Trek movie from worst to best. So let's get to it.
Mr. Paris, set a course.
Maximum warp!
Let's punch it.
Insurrection is an odd one in the Star Trek family, as are a lot of these films, but to me, Insurrection is just an odd mixture of a decent TNG episode mixed with a terrible 80s B movie. There are some legitimately great scenes, like Geordi getting his sight back, and space battles are kind of neat, but the villain is so odd, the face-stretching design is bizarre, Picard's unbelievably uncompelling love interest, and the simple fact that this cast is not made for action movies, which is the entirety of the second half. Oh boy. Star Trek V, it's a bad movie. When directed by William Shatner pops up in the opening credits, that's a concern to say the least, but the fact that the script went through multiple revisions is a problem to say the least. Spock has a brother out of nowhere, just like how Michael Burnham was introduced. There are so many weird moments. Not Star Trek weird either. The film falls on its face in so many concepts. What action there is so awfully helmed, and the ending.
What's wrong? Don't you like this face?
Tom Hardy does a good job as a younger Patrick Stewart. Whoever casted that did a good job. Although I thought he had hair when he was younger. But Nemesis, to its credit, the plot is fairly imaginative, but unfortunately it just turns into another generic action movie again. None of the personal drama is interesting. The CGI has greatly improved since Insurrection, taking on a look more like The Matrix with the greens and the black, but the fact that the TNG era finishes with everyone depressed as Data's brother is slowly singing after blowing up Picard's clone, talk about dropping a ball. I honestly lean favorably to Generations. It has some really... I honestly lean favorably to Generations. It has some really neat ideas. The interactions between Kirk and Picard are really great and thoughtful. There are some genuinely touching and emotional moments. Malcolm McDowell is really great in it as well. However, the movie often feels aimless. It gives us Kirk and Picard hanging out on an imaginary ranch for a few minutes before the three old men have a strange fight, which ends in James T. Kirk dying because he fell off a bridge. A horribly uneventful death. It wasn't like he did a powerful sacrifice in a dying action. He literally just falls off a cliff. Anyway, it's probably the most faithful TNG movie, despite feeling like a needless story. I get that a lot of people like this film, but for me, First Contact just feels like a subpar action movie. Let me get this straight though, I adore the opening of this film. Set and production of the Borg cube is mesmerizing. The plot of the Borg Queen is pretty great, however the action, much like Insurrection, it feels horribly out of place within this franchise. The cast interactions are fun, but ultimately the Borg are a great zombie apocalypse villain rather than an action movie villain. Also, it's just weird to see Patrick Stewart doing a John McClane impression in the final act. Now we get to the movies I like and actually want to talk about. The first Leonard Nimoy directed Star Trek film is stunning visually. Two shots always stick with me. The Enterprise approaching spaceport and the ship as it enters the atmosphere over Genesis as it burns. It is a great lead on from the Wrath of Khan, and I love how Spock only truly comes back at the very end of the film, making the ending of Wrath of Khan actually mean something for the next film. It is weird how quickly Kirk's son dies and it is strange reaction to it, but the story is compelling to watch. Christopher Lloyd makes for a great villain and the visuals are absolutely stunning. Star Trek Into Darkness is a visually stunning film. It has great action set pieces, good pacing, strong and charismatic performances, a memorable villain, and a great score. Unfortunately, the script is bizarrely over-convoluted. The visuals distract you from a story that is extremely cliche, and also has so many plot conveniences thrown in randomly. The story is all over the place, as it tries to be the Wrath of Khan, but also be different, and ultimately, this film just ends up falling over its feet. Star Trek Beyond is the closest we've gotten to a modern day episode of classic Trek, telling a story during the 5-year voyage of the Enterprise. The action scenes are well done, Jayla is a cool new character, the villain has an interesting backstory, and the visual of Yorktown is stunning. Also, the tributes to Anton Yelchin and Leonard Nimoy are touching and beautiful. However, unfortunately the plot is just very forgettable. In what should have been the final appearance of the original cast, this film tells a terrific story of backhanded politics which mirrors the Cold War. The cast are great with tense action scenes and the film's terrific themes of retirement and aging, mixed in with a fantastic story as well as that emotional and heartfelt ending.
Where no one has gone before.
The Star Trek franchise was a corpse left lying dormant after Enterprise, until J.J. Abrams revitalized the franchise for a new generation. And what we got was a fun and exciting adventure to reintroduce Star Trek to a new generation. Pine, Quinto, Urban and Zaldana were all great in their new roles, every action scene is visually stimulating and intense, and the film has such a great energy. The villain is kinda weak, but it gets a pass when the character reintroductions are so great and so interesting as well. This film is odd in the Star Trek filmography, as I'd argue that it's this film's fault that the franchise isn't big as it could be. Instead of aping off Star Wars, they went with a boring, slow burn sci-fi story focusing more on imagery and science rather than big bombastic large-scale action scenes. And for that reason I love it. It's a character piece. The Kirk Spock McCoy dynamic is fantastic and riveting, the story of Decker and Ilia is new and interesting, and the Jerry Goldsmith score. I was kind of saving talking about the music in these films for this one, but the music is absolutely brilliant here. I especially love the music of when the Enterprise is exiting dry dock. And it's a movie I'd love to watch in the cinema. The sets and the practical effects are stunning and still holds up to this day. Yep, Star Trek IV, or better known as the one with the whales, is one of the funniest sci-fi comedies ever made. Just the idea of going back to the 1980s to save Earth in the future is brilliant. All of the comedy hits. Kirk and Spock's dynamic is fantastic and hilarious. The plot is once again unique and interesting, and it makes for a great conclusion to the 3-film story arc of number 2 to number 4. Yeah, you probably saw this coming. One of the greatest sequels of all time is my number 1. This film has stood the test of time for many reasons. The evolution of Kirk's character, the brilliant and tense space battles, the now iconic sacrifice of Spock, and of course, Ricardo Montalban as Khan. Every word that comes out of that man's mouth is mesmerizing and you hang on every single sentence. The film is so tense and it really allows you to just get sucked into the story. Kirk is such a great character in this and his arc is so interesting. He's no longer the gaunt-beating, womanizing, maniacal hero of the original series. He's now become a legend amongst Starfleet and has to deal with being looked upon with such admiration, and we see how it ultimately cracks his spirit, Khan being the blast from his past to bring him to reality. That Kirk's solution that time ended up failing. But anyway, this film is legendary, stands the test of time, and is the best Star Trek film. So that's my rankings. What did you think? Be sure to comment below with your rankings. Like and share, and make sure you subscribe to the Young Cynics. Please check out the recently uploaded Star Wars fanfic I did, and until next time, goodbye.